Welcome Deeply Rooted, a web series on mindset. My name is Tony Wisdom, aka Tony Gaines. I've spent over 20 years in the music business as a producer, engineer, label owner, and executive. This show is dedicated to changing the narrative on success. I reached out to the most successful people I know. I want to know what drives them, their greatest mistakes, their best advice, their secrets to success, and how all of that has shaped who they are today. Take a journey with us. Hey. Welcome back, folks. Deeply Rooted, Season 5, Episode 5, with the lovely Wanja Joy. I ran into Wanja in a clubhouse room that she's created, a beautiful space called Path to Pay. And I believe they run every morning at 5:55 a.m. Central, which is my time. So yeah, Wanja is a beautiful soul. She's always in service. I believe she's a clarity coach as well. And there's just, this vibe that you get from certain people, that, they resonate with you maybe differently than other people. And for me, Wanja is one of those people. I love listening to her speak every morning and offer, guidance and help and different ways of achieving mindfulness. The day after I was at the Tony Robbins UPW event, I went into their room, and it was kind of funny because I was like trying to get down to the beach, and I was moving around, and they couldn't hear me. But I was so fired up from Tony Robbins, and I remember at the end of that room, we did a prayer journal. Right. So we just sat and we just wrote down, our messages to God, our prayers, and then we shared them with each other. And it was such a beautiful day and such a beautiful way for me to wrap up that UPW experience. So just a little, Path to Pay is a clubhouse room. You guys know I love Clubhouse. It stands for Purposeful Actions Invested Daily. And it was birthed out of a deep desire to connect with others who have the knowledge that they are the common denominator responsible for every area of their lives. The journey is not necessarily about the destination. It is about the moments experienced that vibrate energy at such a high rate that it magnetizes in you, your relationships, and naturally your currency. The journey travel through light and allows room to unpack along the way. So, I just love that right there, So without further ado, I'm going to bring Wanja on, such a beautiful soul, and we'll get this thing started. So, hi.
Hey, Tony. Yes, I see you. It's so funny. We're so used to speaking to each other on microphones.
Yeah, right.
Each other live. Yeah.
Well, welcome, Wanja, and I appreciate you for taking your time out, to talk with me. Before we get started, I do like. Can you give me a little bit of like your background, who Wanja is professionally?
So yeah, every time I get that question, I have to pause. I'm going because I no longer have a separation between who Wanja is, period. Because who I am professionally is what I live my life. Like professionally, I it's almost like there is no distinction between the two. However, to answer your question directly, I used all accumulation of my life experiences to create a business. And without even realizing it, because it happened so naturally, following my own path to paid, being intentional about what I do every day, my life has gone full circle. So when I went to college, many moons ago, I studied journalism and communication and didn't think I'd do much with media. So what my life has done now, it's gone full circle to a point where I am now helping people find their voices, literally and figuratively. So that's done through coaching, it's done through speaking. And what I mean by finding their voice, literally and figuratively, is I found I naturally connected to people who are not sure what in the world is happening. Like they've had two, three, 50th chances, and they're like, okay, I'm not sure what to do with my life. What is my purpose in life? And they may already have a career, or they may be feeling stuck in what they already are doing. And so what I do is I help them break down in order to build up.
Mm,
So, but we don't wait till tomorrow to do it because we're not guaranteed tomorrow. So what I
mm,
help them is realize that the intentional actions they take today are going to compound to building their future starting now.
mm,
So I've had clients actually still have their careers, come into the programs, and then end up quitting in the middle. It's not like they come in and they go, I'm going to quit my job. But in the actions they take, and they're so intentional about it, it just happens so organically. And
mhm,
then they wake up one day and they're like, I never knew I would ever quit my job. So instead of making it a thing, plan for this and plan for that. Because when you tell the universe you have these many expectations on it, sometimes you can stifle what gifts you already have coming to you.
mm.
So we're all about leaning into what we have now instead of yearning for what we don't know or what we may have in the future when we're not guaranteed anything more than this moment, Tony. I don't know what's going to happen
Mhm,
5 seconds from now.
mhm.
Yeah. So that's what I
Yep.
do.
I love it. It's like one of my favorite quotes, or just a quote that's pops out there is, yesterday is history, tomorrow's a mystery, but the present is a gift, and it's all we have. So I love that. Um, so I know you said there's no separation, but who is Wanja, the person?
Ooh, she's free like a bird. She's free like a bird, Tony. I went through so much pain and suffering for years in my life.
Mm,
And I remember tapping the shoulder of this woman one day and I said, every time I see you, no matter what you're sharing going on in your life, you always have so much peace and you're always so calm. I remember she was going through getting tested and she thought she was going to have cancer and she was just peaceful. And I'm thinking, how do you do that? Like I used to morph depending on what was happening. I'd find happiness.
mm,
And it was like I'd wait till the time I go on vacation, or I'd wait till I move to that house, or I'd wait till I buy that car, or I'd wait till my kids' grades. It was always something in the future. And
mm,
so, what Wanja is today is she realizes that life actually happens for her, not to her. You know what I mean? She
mm,
gets to do things. She doesn't have to do anything. She gets to do it. It's a privilege today. I wake up every single day realizing the tiniest things is actually to be grateful for.
mm,
I don't have to look for gratitude because I always have gratitude. Even at my worst experiences, I'm grateful for them because I remember a time in my life that I would numb the feelings
mm,
because I'm a generator. I found out my human design. Supposedly, I'm a generator based on when I came into this world, and so I didn't know what to do with all of that. So I was always looking outside of myself, not realizing that it was already within me. So Wanda's this free woman who realizes that she can think in feelings and she used to let those things captivate her, and now she's learned how to master that to actually help her as a stepping stone to the person that she continues to become, because I'm always becoming. It's not a
mm.
one. So that's probably why I was saying that there's not a big difference, because in order for me to help people, I've got to be. I'm not going to lie to you. I have integrity. So I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to guarantee you anything. So I become those things, and I find I attract as I go the people who are looking for something similar to my journey.
Such a great answer. I love it. Now that was beautiful, Wanja. And you're right. For us, not to us. Get to, not have to. I love it. So, Wanja, how do you define success?
I actually like to look at it the other way around. So
Hmm.
I don't see anything as a failure.
Hmm.
If I get up and I have 24 hours in front of me, and I have intentions that I set for that day, and it goes left and not right, I get to learn a lesson from it. So for me, success is when I'm in the willingness to follow the will of God.
Mm,
As I develop the relationship first and foremost with God, that's who I go to first. That's why I have a 5:55 a.m. room, because in order for me to show up at 5:55 a.m., which is by the way Eastern Standard Time, so it's 4:55 your time.
oh, wow.
I know. You come in a little later. That's probably why it feels like 5:55 your time. And so what I learned from me is that that relationship is non-negotiable.
Mm,
And that definition for me, because I was created to be a success. I was created for abundance. I was also created to create. And the
mm,
only one who authors my life and knows my future is my God.
mm,
So I never used to know it had to be a personal relationship. So once I figured out it was a personal relationship, one, I don't have to explain to anybody, you
mm,
know, one that is like very huge ego killer. So it died from the successes of the externals that I used to have to really having internal. When I go to bed at night, my success is knowing I did not intentionally hurt anybody,
mm,
that I did well to connect with myself mentally, physically, spiritually, that I did those things that my God cannot do for me. You know, I have food in the refrigerator. I'm not going to sit there and say I'm hungry. And did I help somebody else today?
mm,
So to me, those are the definitions of success. It's really that deep connection that I have today to realize that, like I mentioned, it's a privilege to have these minutes. So I actually make choices today. I don't
mm,
things are not always beautiful, but I get to make choices. There was a time in my life I couldn't, you know,
mm.
I couldn't actually make choices. So today it's making that choice is success as well. So
Beautiful. That's a great answer. You're over here killing this interview, just so you know.
and I didn't prepare. I was telling you earlier, like I didn't go studying because if I study, then I'll be like regurgitating what I already know. I'm like, you know
Yeah,
what, I'm gonna experience this. I didn't ask what was gonna be happening in advance. So I'm literally experiencing this with you as we go.
I love it, and I love doing that because you get a more natural answer, right? It's what pops in your head.
Yes.
So, what drives you, Wanja? What's your why?
So I hear that all the time, like you gotta have a why. Your why is not big enough. What drives me so much more than my why, and my why changes.
Hmm.
My why, I know for me, it's about the dash. It's about the from the time I was born to the time I'm no longer on this earth, and because I don't know when that is, um, mine is to leave a legacy. To leave that legacy doesn't mean that it's happening in the future. It's happening as I go. So when I'm really, really connected to be able to help along the way, to me, my why is when I hear people reaching out to me a year later and saying something I've impacted them on that has changed their life, and I have no memory of it.
Mm,
That actually helps me understand that I was doing my God's job, and my ego wasn't tethered to it, because I'm not taking credit for whatever it is. So for me, my why is a deep, deep desire for that connection you read about earlier. I was like, where did he read that, by the way? Um, Mine is that deep connection that when I was growing up, I didn't have, and I really wasn't capable of it.
mm,
I was very shy. I was a wallflower growing up, and I was the only girl in my family, and I was always yearning to really feel free and be in a place where I don't feel judged because I'm not judging myself and I'm definitely not judging you. So
mm,
my why is that leaving that mark on this earth, that I can't not just give but also have the ability to receive.
mm,
So because that was tough for me too, saying yes was really, really tough for me. So
mm,
being able to actually allow people to be gifted through me and gift people through me. So because I don't know who, my desire is to remain so connected that when it happens, I'm like, yes. It's both questions are answered at the same time for me. My why is achieving that success I just described. Um, I love my offsprings, for example, and absolutely, I'm not going to sit here and say that they are my why,
mm,
because that they also have their connection of their understanding.
mm,
So my success and or opportunity, because I don't get into the failure thing, is not connected to their success or opportunity.
mm,
So I don't get to own, they're not property. However, when I hear them regurgitate something that they've learned from me, that's a big why too.
mm. I love it. My 11-year-old son, he had a friend that was being bullied in school, and he's a very loving kid, and he cares about people, and he got his friend to join Clubhouse, come into the Giving Unconditionally room. He brought him on stage, and he got his friend help because he knew there was help available. And it
Oh,
was like one of my proudest moments as a father, like seeing this energy that I have and the service that I have, like seeing him do it without, just on his own because he thought it was the right thing to do, you know. Very beautiful.
yes.
So, can you think of a major setback in your life that set you up for later success?
Yeah. That when you said that, the first thing that came to mind, which oh my gosh, for such a long time I thought was a setback. Um, it was my addiction to alcohol.
Mm,
So that the my life actually started at the time I put that down and picked up
mm,
the joy piece that you see right back. It's so opposite. Right back there it says choose joy.
mm,
So that's when I started choosing joy. And I'm not today. I can be around it today. I it's not an issue, quote unquote, for me today.
mm,
However, with that said, I never ever want to forget where it took me. It was short career. It was a very short career, but it was a very deep career. Um,
mm,
and so that's what drove me to say I cannot do things like this anymore. Because before, because my addiction was in my 30s. It was late in life. I already had a family. Um, I had a beautiful career, and I realized when I stopped that before that I had addictions to other things,
mm,
addictions to success. I had fear of failure, like a deep, deep fear of failure. I was so disconnected from reality a lot of times because I was afraid of making decisions because I was so attached to perfectionism, for example.
mm,
So what I've learned along the way is like that's when my life really started was when I recognized that this is one thing that I desired and I could not do it well. I mean, I laugh about it now, but it's not
mm,
funny, but it's funny. I could not do it well. And it was a progressive journey of my life.
mm,
And so when I actually gave that up and realized that I could not do it, with the tools that I had to go pick up additional tools to get better, to get to the place I am today. And I actually get to help others who are struggling with that journey through and through.
mm,
It gave me a deeper sense of humanity you know,
mm.
because before then, I believe there was a part of me that was a little bit disconnected.
Yeah.
Um, it was that led me, and so there's no part of my life today that I have shame against, and there's no part of my life today that I don't share about.
Hmm.
If it's appropriate. You know what I mean? So that definitely, by far, is my moment.
Yeah. I grew up with two parents that were addicts, and my dad he was in the program for 30 years. I went to a lot of like dances and conferences and cookouts, and you know I was in Al-Anon, Alateen. But I realized something the other day because my dad just recently found Clubhouse, and he loves it, and he's like over participating. You know what I mean? Like, and but what I realized was, those meetings that he used to go to all the time when I was a kid, like it's kind of like the first Clubhouse. It's like where they would get together, like-minded people, share experiences, be there to help one another, be there, and I was like, damn, that's really cool. Like he found Clubhouse again. Like he found his tribe again. So I definitely have experience. My mother, rest in peace. She died, with an opioid addiction, maybe from an opioid addiction. We don't really know, but it was an overdose, and it's hard. So I honor you for your strength and your awareness, to see that. So congratulations, and keep moving.
Keep it moving, Tony. We just keep it moving. That's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what is one of the best or most worthwhile investments you've ever made? Could be an investment of time, money, or energy.
Um, Mine was my decision as a young buck, as a young girl to move to the States.
Mm,
It was a decision that I made young. It was a decision I made by myself and then had to convince my very authoritarian, um, African father. He was like, don't call me daddy, call me father. So, yeah, convince him that I could do it. And so, what that investment did, um, the word investment has in invest.
mm,
So there's something about it's an inside job, right? And it was the first time that I recognized for Wanja. I'd like to refer myself as third person. It's always so much fun. That it was my first fearless move. I was moving to a different continent. Yes, I spoke English, but differently from everybody else.
mm,
And I was not attached to my parents' name. Like I was moving to a totally different place where nobody knew who I was.
mm,
And it was in that move that it allowed me and gave me permission to start living life, although I didn't succeed with that initially, to start living life fearlessly. Because I
mm,
had these two suitcases and I got off a plane in Orlando, Florida to go to college. Like I didn't know anything. And I tried going to McDonald's. Like coming to America has absolutely nothing on me. It was so many stories, and so I couldn't even order a meal at
mm,
McDonald's because of the language barrier. I came from the British system, so they call them chips and not fries. So try telling that to the McDonald's lady who has like 15 people in the line. It's back in the day when you couldn't order on the phone, and the drive-throughs were different, so people used to go inside more. So it was in that. It was being in a foreign land. It
mm,
was in the being called an alien because the system calls you an alien when you move to the country.
mm,
It was in that I recognized that there was so much freedom for me, and all I needed to do was tap into it.
mm,
And so to this day, now I have children that same age that I was, and one of them has an interest in moving to a different country. I'm not afraid for her because I remember how much I wanted that as well. So
mm.
yeah, that was it. That was definitely it. That's what comes to mind at least. Ask me this question 15 years from now, I'll have a different answer. But it comes to mind right now.
I
Yeah.
love it. And so you were college age, right? 18, 19 years old.
Yeah, but you know what's so funny? I was college age to move to the States. However, I had been begging for a long time
Mm,
before my parents, because I'm the only daughter and I graduated high school at 16. So my parents were like, no, you're not moving to a different country. So it took me a while to convince them. And
mhm,
the way I convinced them was through action. That's why I'm so connected to taking action instead of just talking about things.
mm,
So I kept it when they said, how are you going to pay for your ticket? I'm a really good artist. And so I sold art. And then I took my little money. I didn't even know it wasn't enough to buy a ticket. But the fact that I did that gave my dad, like, you know what? She's serious about this.
mhm,
So it was through action. Yeah, I was young externally when all this was happening, but I had an old soul. I did.
mm.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. How do you define love?
I define love as the greatest of them all. Like love is so simple to me. I know there's a textbook definition, but I do believe there are different types of love. And the one that I'm most connected to, obviously on a daily basis, is agape love. It's that unconditional love. It's the I don't even have to like you to love you love.
Mm,
It is the one that comes through me, but it serves to me through my God. It's the
mm,
giving people grace. It's the people understanding everybody gets willpower. And you can do whatever you want to do with yours. I can do whatever I want to do with mine. And I know the first time a stranger said, I love you, I was like, what do you want from me? That's the thoughts that I used to have. Like, why? That's weird. You don't know me. And
mm,
I remember the first time I told a quote unquote stranger I loved them and meant it. And there's something about love that is so pure. It's
mm,
so pure. There is no expectation of the other individual. And I can genuinely say I love you today because I have a deeper love for me.
mm.
for love for me comes from the deeper love that I have through my God, which is completely unconditional. Because man, you should see our conversations. We're like, I'm like, this is what you put together in this world. So we talk about anything and everything, and that's what I consider love. Like I should not. That's the path to paid energy. Like
Mm.
you can show up however you are. We're gonna love you. We're gonna love you, unless you get disruptive, and then we'll just put you back to the audience.
So
So
speaking
love.
of,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I love it. Speaking of love, can you think of an act of kindness that you were once shown that you will never forget?
Gosh, so many come to mind. The one that I remember that really comes to mind was in the middle of my divorce. And I was really disconnected. It was a lot. Going through the system, the court system is like, oh my gosh, it was draining my energy. So much in my life was changing. I had so much uncertainty. And I had these two, kids who were impressionable. And so I had really learned to lean into the things that I'm speaking to you about. And it was really eye opening. Let's just put it that way. And that morning, I had said to my God, I'm exhausted. I'm really, really exhausted. I was going through some changes financially because we were going through changes financially. Um, and I remember I had bless you, I
Thank you.
had sacrificed. I wasn't taking care of myself because I was like, I don't know what's in the future. I'd rather use this money to do something. And I remember looking at my nails and looking at my feet and going, dang, God, I need a manicure and a pedicure. And I've got to do this. I think it was around Christmas time. And I would have rather spent the money on my kids. And I'm not going to sit here and say anything ill about, the other individual involved. I'm sharing my story. And so I remember that morning I had this conversation, and there are some things that had transpired in our course of the divorce, our separation, and then eventually divorce, and that had really been eye opening. And so I went to my God about all these things, and I ended up in this space, and somebody said, "You don't look okay. Are you okay?" Because the one thing about me is my features speak. If I'm not okay, I can't fake that I'm okay. And so I was like, this individual was sharing about an event that happened that was very similar to what I was going through, and I shared. And when I shared that individual doesn't, I didn't say anything about my conversation with God that morning. I didn't say anything other than, wow, thank you for sharing that, because I was looking forward to the day that I would receive that message, and it's coming through you because of what he had said. It was a very similar experience I had gone through with my children's father. And he takes my hand and put something on it. I didn't know what it was. So I didn't open it. I thought it was just a piece of paper. I thought maybe it was a number to somebody. I got in my car and I opened my hand, and it was $42. And because it wasn't the money, it was because of the conversation that I had that morning.
Mm.
And I said, oh my gosh, a human being who has no idea what's going on in my life allowed God to use them to pay for my manicure and pedicure. So to me, that day, it may not be the greatest act that I received, but it's the one that comes to mind because it was so beautiful. Just the way it happened was so beautiful.
I love that, and I love asking this question because it's always things like that, right? And it really kind of drives home the point that you never know the effect you can have on someone just by being kind,
Yeah.
just by being present and aware to what they need, or to what your heart and your God is telling you, right? Like just being a present and aware to that can make such a big difference. And I don't know how long ago that was, but it still sticks with you. Such a small thing.
Yeah.
And what I really like about that is it was $42, because that insinuates this is everything that I have in my pocket.
I was going to say that. He said, I'm so sorry. This is all I have in my wallet.
I love it.
It wasn't 40, it wasn't 20. It was like, I'm giving you everything I've got. And if I have more, I'd have given it to you. That's basically what he said.
Yeah.
And I thought, how beautiful is that? Like you,
Mm-hmm.
and you have no idea what you just did. Like you don't know the impact that
Mm-hmm.
you just had on this woman, you know. And so I was really grateful. It was definitely an act of kindness on his part.
I love it. Great story.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
in the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
In the last 5 years, it is my willingness and action behind not being the one in control.
Mm,
So I used to love and thought I was in control. Oh my gosh, Johnny. Even like if I had to be somewhere, like I would set my alarm, I'd leave because I was raised on Lombardi time, like get there 15 minutes early. So I'd get upset at the traffic
mm,
because I've done everything I can. So I was yelling at these passengers, I'm sweating bullets because I'm gonna be late and it's gonna have an impact on me. It was me, 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 me. And I wasn't really enjoying the ride. I wasn't
mm,
enjoying the fact that I can pick up keys to get in my car. Like you're
mm,
not always guaranteed to even have keys or a car or gas in a car. So I wasn't enjoying the moment. I was just like busy trying to get there. I was always about getting there. And I was the one who wanted to be in the driver's seat, and I wasn't allowing life to ebb and flow. And I thought, I know the outcome. I'm gonna get there on time is the outcome. So when somebody had an accident on the way, I didn't have that compassion for, oh my gosh, I'd be thinking, how's this gonna impact me? And
mm,
so what that has done, the willingness to just let it go with small tiny things, it's now morphed into the bigger things. I don't have this huge expectation of the outcome as much as I enjoy the ride of the creating. If I create a program and one person signs up for it or nobody signs up for it, I'm okay.
yeah.
I love the fact that I created the program. Maybe this is not the time for that to happen.
Mm,
If you say you're going to call me and you don't call me, I don't go insane like, oh, I don't believe they didn't call me. I'll check to see, are you okay? Is
mm,
everything okay? I'm not just gonna assume it's about me. Like I'm gonna check. Now, if it turns out that you actually didn't call because you didn't want to call, that's another whole different story.
mm,
But even that, I'll be able to let go. You
mm,
know. So to me, it's that controlling behavior because it stole so much joy from me. It stole so much peace from me, and we don't own time, but it also stole moments from me.
mm. And thank you for that. That's something that, you know, I'm in the middle of that battle myself. you know.
That's a good start. That's a good start. The fact that you said you're in the middle of it, it's an
Hmm.
acknowledgement.
Yeah.
So you're aware. The awareness is where I start with it. And keep in mind, you said that within the last 5 years. So I'm still working on it. It's not like I'm
Mm,
done or I've graduated from it, but boy, has it come a long way.
yeah. Well, I honor you for that, and I'm proud of you for the work you're putting in
Thank
on it.
you.
So, okay, let me get my. What advice would you give to a kid about to enter the real world, coming out of high school, coming out of college, going into their adulthood? What advice would you give them?
Um, Allow yourself time to be a lot time for grace, give and receive grace. It's funny because I just had a conversation with a child recently about this. I'm going off of what I said. My theme for a conversation on that day was, it's not that serious.
Mm,
Because when I was that age, everything was so serious. And I lived so much in the future. But what I've come to learn is that a lot of what happens is somebody else's reality. Like use my story as an example. I came to this country and I did really well. I got my 3 year degree in 2 years. I did very well. I was successful in all areas that you could think of. I got that big job. I got all of that stuff. Life was absolutely beautiful. And one day just changed.
mm,
It changed overnight. And so, what I have learned and what I would share is build your muscles. Build your muscles of being honest, live in your reality. Build your muscle of having hope, but realizing hope without action is dead. Build your muscle of faith. Have courage to go through this thing called life. Have integrity. Like build those muscles. Find what principles you want to live by and build the muscles with those principles. Because when everything changes in your life, one day it will. Whether it may not be on a financial basis, it may not even be known to other people, but it's gonna be known internally. And what is it you're gonna turn to? One of my biggest things is, are you gonna have peace when there's absolutely nothing in your bank account? Would you still have peace? Would you have trust if you don't know where the next meal is coming from? A lot of people never get to experience that. And if you don't know what that feels like, take a drive in an area of town everybody tells you to avoid. Be safe about it, but go see what reality looks like. Just take care of yourself so that you're able to take care of others. Don't feed people from an empty cup. People say all the time, I'll give you the shirt off my back. Dude, you're gonna get arrested. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no, we're told to put on your shirt to enter a restaurant and all that stuff. And as a woman, I don't think that's even legal for me to do. So keep your shirt on, but be able to give.
Yeah.
Be able to give that individual shirt to wear too. But fill your cup. So I know that's a lot of advice, but it's all about that common denominator I talk about. It's about taking care of that common denominator because selfish is selfish, but self-care is not selfish.
Yeah.
So figure out who you are.
And you think about when you take a flight and they're doing the pre-flight rundown and they say, if the mask comes down, right, put it on yourself before you try to put it on anyone else.
Yeah,
Because if you can't breathe, you're not going to be able to help anyone.
exactly. Exactly.
So I
Yeah.
love that. That's great advice.
Yeah.
Sorry, my phone keeps going to sleep. Okay. You would think I would know these questions by heart at this point. Okay. Our mantra here at Deeply Rooted is kill the ego, ignite the soul. What
Mm.
does that mean to you?
Ooh, the ego gets such a bad rap. The ego is a part of us. It's a part of self. Um, Ignite the soul. I have a sold out SOULED series this month in Path to Paid on Saturdays. And so we've been talking a lot about the soul. To me, the soul is eternal. I
Mhm,
did meet someone this week who doesn't even believe there is a soul.
mhm,
So for me, the ego, people have so many definitions of ego, easing God out, edging God out. For me, the ego creates absolutely nothing new. And since
mm,
my soul is eternal, for me, when I allow the ego to dominate and not have like, hey, dude, I appreciate you serving, but you are fired conversations.
mhm,
My ego has brought me to spaces that have ended up being so painful that I was the next thing would have been suffering. And because to me, I can go through pain because I'm human, but when I start suffering, that means that it's my ego saying, don't ask for help. So it will
mm,
a killer of everything, including that sole purpose in life for me. So for me, ignite, oh my God, when you think of that fire, use that fire from your soul to kill that ego. Like if I, because the thing about the ego is that it always has these messages. Like I said, they're not new. It's not going to do anything for you other than remind you of the past and then create a false reality about the future. So for me, I do acknowledge it. I
mhm,
like to acknowledge it because it's a part of self. And a lot of times, what really gets me is not my high ego. It's not that egotistical, look at me. It's the low ego. It's a self esteem. It's a self talk. It's that
mhm,
low bottom shelf ego. Because to me, I believe there is a high ego and I also believe there's a low ego.
mm,
So for me, it's the acknowledgement that A, there is ego, and B, that there is a soul. And which one are you going to serve? And
mm,
which one is serving you back? So yeah, there's a fire in my belly, there's a freedom in Wanja, and the ego doesn't have a place but to just tap my shoulder every once in a while and say, "Hey, girly," you know. I used to be afraid of going on camera for a long time. You
Mm,
know, I have this gap on my teeth that used to drive me crazy, and I'm like,
mm,
I'm not changing it. My dad had the exact same gap. So every time I go on camera now, I remember my dad because he passed away. You know,
mm.
next month will be 18 years, and
All right.
so I get to see it's like we communicate now, and it's all good. I see it, I honor it. But in my old life, I'd have been like, I can't. It's really bothering me to see it. That's a part of myself. That is a part of myself that I'm very aware of. But the action I would take beyond that, that's my ego ignited. So why would
Mm,
I ignite that? Why not ignite the soul that's fire? And it's
mm,
eternal. So I want to nurture a relationship with what's eternal and not what's dead or is gonna kill me.
yeah. And I'm the same way. I have this cleft lip, and like being on camera, having to look at it because I don't see it that often, right?
Yeah,
Everybody else sees it, and everybody that knows me, I would sure if I didn't have it, I would look weird, you know. But when I see it, I still notice it, and I'm like, but the ego is like, you don't need to be on camera. They're gonna do this or they're gonna do that. But my
yeah,
soul says somebody needs to hear what Wanja has to say. Somebody needs to hear what I have to say. And if I don't show up, the message isn't being put out there.
exactly,
So that ego's got to go, and the souls needs to just drop some gas on it and just go. So
exactly. Kill it. Yes,
kill it.
yes.
I love it. So we all have this moment in our journeys when we want to call it quits, when we're at our lowest, so to speak. When you reach that point in your journey, how did you fight through?
First things first to this day, because I'm already feeling that low, I like to drop on my knees. That's where I go. All that represents for me is the humility on, I can't do this. I don't have anything left in me. I know, because it's that hope with that work, right? You know there's something else. You know you can fight through it. You know it, like your belly knows it, right? So for me, it's the full action of surrender. And for me, surrender can simply mean I don't know. I just don't know. So help, SOS, like wave the flag. For me, I get on my knees or I get into like this fetal position. But the next thing I do is I snap.
Mm.
So I love my acronyms. So SNAP just means smallest next action possible.
Oh,
So
I love that.
once I drop and I'm like, okay, we are saying we're waving the flag, we can't do it. What's the next thing you can do right now? It's going to shift. And you know what they say about motion,
Mhm.
move a muscle, change a thought. So whether I'm going to go into that kitchen and wash the dishes, whether I'm going to take my phone and text Tony and say, Tony, how's your day going? Smallest next action possible. Because all I'm saying is that of my own power, I can't. But I know you can. Let me do your work because I know you're doing my work.
Mm.
So that's how we roll. That's why I said we have a relationship. That's how we roll.
I love that. I really do because that momentum, right? You have momentum, and then a lot of people will just stop, and it's like if you're pushing a rock up a hill and you're trying to get it up there, then you stop and it rolls back down. Then you got to start all the way back over. So I love the SNAP acronym. Smallest next action possible. I love that. I'm gonna keep that with me.
Hey, keep it close. I got it from somewhere. So when people say I'm steal it, I'm like, I probably stole it too. You know, I love the simplicity of acronyms, and I also love knowing that you know nobody owns any of this stuff. It's not intellectual property, that we can all use it to help each other. We can use it to help ourselves. Yeah, man, that's a really good question, by the way. They're all good questions. That one had me going, what do we do? Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, universal knowledge, right? Like each one teach one, each one reach one, right?
Yes, yes.
So and it kind of similar. The next question, a little bit similar to that, but like on a day to day basis. when you feel overwhelmed or unfocused or have lost your focus temporarily, what do you do?
So I have married some words, and I'm in like the court system divorcing some words, like overwhelmed is one. We're going through the system. We're divorcing some words. Um, when I was telling you about getting my knees, I remember there's a time I got on my knees in a public restroom. Oh, that was not pretty. That's when I really knew that, yeah, it was horrible. So when you said on a daily basis, I'm thinking it's not very different from it. However, I've got to watch if it's repeated.
Mm,
So my whole thing is that, is it something that's continuous? So I love to check myself, like without obsessing about it. Like, okay, what is this, a repeated thing? Is this coming up too often? So when I am not, like, let's say for example, I'm avoiding doing something, so I don't do it today, and then I don't do it tomorrow, and I'm like, at this point, it does overwhelm me because it's still in the backpack. It's still in my subconscious and conscious. Like, I'm like, I know this is something I'm supposed to be doing. So then I have to look like, what is it? What is it? Why don't I want to do this thing? And typically boils down to one of my like characteristics that either I'm still working on. Like I used to think I was procrastinating.
mhm,
And the reason I said think I was procrastinating is a lot of times, until I found out how I'm innately made and how I speak back to myself and others, I didn't realize it's not so much that I was procrastinating, it's that I wanted to really get a deeper understanding before I did it. I'm
mhm,
not talking about, I'm talking about the bigger things, not the tiny things.
mhm,
So what I like to do is assess those things as they come up, honor them, and then if they're coming up more often, that's when we have to go, okay, what is it? What's really going on? And a lot of times for me just boils down to either fear that I'm having or perfectionism. Like I have to wait until I have ABC to do D, when you already have A, just do it. Nike said it best, right? Just do it. So I it's a continuous journey for me. I give myself a lot of grace. So how I snap out of that is I am completely honest with myself.
mhm,
I like to be held accountable. So I have a circle of people that know what's going on in my life enough for me to call them without having to explain.
mhm,
So I don't have to go, oh yeah, by the way, what happened was, they know, they kind of have an idea of what's going on. So they're like, what's really going on? Let's talk a little bit about it. So like I called this friend of mine on New Year's Eve at midnight, and it was something that I'd been going through that day. And she paused and she said, is there abandonment in your history? And I love those type of relationships that ask you questions, don't give you answers.
mhm,
And I went back to that action that I was taking that day was actually leading back to child Wanja.
mhm,
So all I needed to do was nurture her. So I know now that it's so important to have self care, because being a generator, I attract a lot of different people, a lot of different energies.
mhm.
So I'm learning that even the not doing doesn't necessarily mean it's not because I don't want to, it's because I may be completely out of gas. So maybe take a check, go rest, go take a walk. So I've got to pause enough, Tony, to really understand what's going on without obsessing about it.
Yeah,
If that makes sense.
yeah. And one thing that I keep hearing you say, and I want to lean in on it, is you know, ask yourself better questions. Figure out how to get to the root of it. Like, and if you can't, then ask more questions. The quality of our questions that we ask ourselves can determine the quality of our life, right? Because when you
Yes,
get to the root of those problems, you see things that you might not have seen if you weren't digging a little deeper.
exactly.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love
the
it.
name, deeply rooted.
Hmm.
Think of the roots. Like, you can't, I can cut a tree from the branches and the stem, but if I don't get to the root, the tree's still alive.
Yeah.
And cutting a tree is not easy because of the roots. The roots are deep. So I love the name, by the way.
Thank you. And it was more about, you know, we plant these seeds. It may be like, you plant the seed of personal growth for Wanja, getting to Wanja's greatest self, and then Path to Paid, and then Jay, and then Ingrid, and then, all these different people, and then they have their branches, and, but it all starts from these seeds that we plant.
Yeah.
And I always like to say, when in terms of success, like, to me, I look at nature, right, for my definition, and I think of a seed, and a seed falling to the ground, and how does that seed become successful, right? it,
Mhm.
it, it goes in the dirt, it starts to have little roots pop out, and next thing you know, it's sprouting up and it's producing fruit, and that's successful. Every
Exactly.
day it grew, every day it made a little bit more progress, like you said earlier, right? Building that muscle. So,
And I'm glad you brought up Path to Page because you know some of these questions you asked, Path to Page is a perfect example. Like what actions you take every day. I will never forget the day that it was a lot. I was getting up every single day, 7 days a week, getting my feeding in, and then going to serve at 5:55 a.m. on Path to Page. And one day my body just didn't get up. And I was like, oh my gosh, I opened my eyes because I got my quiet time and then I went back thinking 5 minutes sleep. Next thing I know, it's 6:24. I'll never forget the time. And I get in Clubhouse and I'm scrolling so that I can open the room. And I didn't have a co-host. I didn't have anybody else who could open the room. And it said in the hallway, there was a room that said, have to paid waiting room. Have to paid waiting room. Ingrid had started a waiting room for
mhm,
Path to Paid members. So if I had overthought opening, like, how am I going to do this for the rest of whatever time? I would never have opened Path to Paid. But by
mhm,
simply opening it, I had these angels that showed up. And on that day was my aha moment. This club is not about you, Anja.
mhm,
There are people waiting for this. So I asked for help. I said, I have a couple people if they could come in and co-mod with me. And that's how the whole journey started. And now we have four, and then plus myself, five standing mods who take up responsibility for each day of the week, Monday through Friday. And that all started by me going, I don't even know if I can do this, God. And
mhm,
asking, is this even what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this because I had Path to Paid before Clubhouse? Like I put that system before I came into Clubhouse.
mhm,
And I had people I was working with that know the story when I was founding Path to Paid. And now that we have a magazine that will be, being featured this month, I'm going back a lot, and I'm bringing people into this journey with me. And it's amazing how all of this happened because of what you said. Like, what are you gonna do next? What are you gonna do
mhm.
next? And just trust that process, trust that journey. You know?
Water your seeds, tend to your
Yes,
seeds,
yes,
right?
absolutely, yes, yes.
Okay, so if you could have a billboard that the entire world would see, what would it say and why?
Oh my gosh. Um, in this moment, my response is silent and listen have the same letters.
Mm. And what does that mean to you?
At this moment, it means that I don't have the answers when I'm speaking. So learn something new by listening.
I love it. We have two ears and a mouth and one mouth for a reason,
Yes,
right?
yes,
That's
yes.
so simple and so beautiful. I love it, and it's impactful, right?
Yeah, and it's memorable, especially a billboard because you want people to be safe when they drive. So you want to put something they can see in a second and keep moving and remember it later. So of course, selfishly I'd say path to pay, but then you have to explain all of the acronyms and so. But I love the silent and listen. Yeah, especially when you're driving. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So, if you could give every person in the world a gift, what would you give them?
Smile. Yes, like a joyful hearted smile, because at the end of the day, have you ever, even with masks on,
Mhm.
even with the world changing, even with this global pause and global retreat, I don't know about you, but every time someone literally looks me in the eye and smiles, it just makes my heart smile. So if I was to give somebody a gift right in this moment where I stand, it's a big old smile. And
Well,
I,
give it to us. There it is. It's
yeah,
such,
yeah,
it's such a
I can do
beautiful
the
smile.
cute smile. I can do the Colgate smile too.
Let's see.
Yes.
So we just have two more questions.
Uh-huh.
What song would you consider to be the soundtrack of your life? Or do you have a song that you turn to for strength?
It's funny. I ask Pastor Paid members this all the time. I'm like, if you were to leave this room right now and go write a song, what would you write based on our energy? I like asking that question. Um, I'm going to. I have so many songs that come to mind because I love, as you know, we play songs at the end, and um, but right now, because we were talking about it earlier, um, the um, the song. And I have to close my eyes. Um, oh gosh, fight song.
Hmm.
Fight song. I think it's by Rachel. I forget her name. But anyway, this is my fight song.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So that song gave me life
Mm.
7 years ago. That song, I used to like blast that song. I love songs like "Man in the Mirror." I like songs with depth. I like
Mm.
deeply rooted songs. Um, so I would say like that fight song right now is what really my heart is feeling it. Yeah,
I love that one.
yeah,
I'm just hearing it in my head now. It's just running through my head. Bye, bye, the
I
rise
know.
up.
Yeah, my hairbrush was a microphone, and it
Yeah.
was like, yeah, I had a lot of fun with that song. And then I would, it's like Survivor. It's like, those songs during that time in my life, those were the songs. They're not really what drives me today, but because of what we've been talking about, it's in my head. So after this, I'm gonna go play it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
When I was at Tony Robbins, music is a big part of what he does, right? Every 30 minutes to an hour, there's music, you're up jumping and dancing. And, there's in the course of 4 days, there was maybe 30 or 40 songs that were played, right? And spending 20 years in the music business, you sometimes can't see the forest through or see the trees or the forest through the trees, right? Because people that write music and give us those energies and those vibrations, like that stuff is effective and powerful and impactful in people's lives. And when they're just playing music that have the depth, like you were saying, the lyrics, the inspiration,
yeah,
it's like I really noticed that. I was like, wow, music is powerful, man. It
it
really
is.
is.
It is because that song. One of the lyrics is "Take your life back." You know what I mean? Like take your life back.
Mm,
And so, because my expectation of what my life would have been had changed, had started the path of changing at that time, it was really like take your life back. I was pinging that young girl that I mentioned who was so free to come to a different country with two suitcases and no idea what was going to happen. Like, how did she go from there to the person she had become or was becoming? Like, something had to stop and take it back and this time grow it differently. So that's why
mm,
that song is the lyrics are so impactful because it was like, I'm paraphrasing, but it's something about, people are not going to believe you. Like, you basically have to be your own hero right now. I'm paraphrasing that, my understanding of the lyrics at that time. And it was really impactful because for years, I used to be so connected to getting validated by people,
mm.
depending on it, like literally depending on people validating me. And I never really realized how selfish of me to expect other people to validate me when I wasn't validating myself at that rate.
Wow, I love it. Well, Wanja, this has been such a great interview.
Yes.
I grew, so thank you. Um,
Sure.
and my last question is, what can we do to support you?
You're already doing an amazing job. And I said earlier, I'd give you some thoughts, and I'm going to reverse that question as well. You show up when you can't speak. You send me a message saying, "Hey, I'm here. I'm just listening today," and that by itself has been huge. I know you've invited people into the club. I know you supported Ingrid when she had the mission of getting 1,000 members in before the end of the year, and the
Yeah.
first week, we already had those members and raised it by a couple hundred. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
like it's a lead journey. So I love what deeply rooted and path to pay. Those words are very, because I know where deeply rooted comes from, because I did go ahead and look into that, and you've shared a little bit. And then I remember the day that you came on and you took us on that journey with you.
Mhm.
And you were like, "Yeah, I have a pen. Yeah, I have paper. I pulled over." I'm like, "Be safe." You're like, "I pulled over." And you read your prayer. I don't remember the exact words of the prayer, but I remember the impact it had on us.
Mhm.
Not only were we traveling with you, literally, but you are like, "I've never done this before, but this is super powerful." So really, just it's that to me, making that change, carrying with you, sharing it. That's what it's about. Because when we started these things, when you started your podcast, we did it to help other people. But
Mhm.
just like you said a few minutes ago, you grew too.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I'm blessed to call you my friend. I'm blessed for your support, and absolutely, my time in the next few months will be freed up a little bit more to be able to show up in your spaces as well. The time your space starts is literally the time I get up in the car and drive.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'll be more intentional about that. But I want to know how I can support you, and we can talk offline about that. And I
Yeah.
appreciate your willingness. And if something comes to mind that's specific, I know where to find you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for that. And you're supporting me right now. This has been, again, on selfishly, I grew, but I also know that someone else is going to grow. And I thank you for that. Thank you for taking your time. And I'm honored to call you a friend as well. So
That's it.
love you, sister. I'll give you your Sunday evening back.
Thank you. I'll take it back, and it's all good. This has been amazing. I had no idea what to expect, and I'm so grateful that I said yes.
Me too.
Yes. All right.
All
Let's
right,
do
love.
it. I was holding something with my other hand. I had to put it down. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Have a
All right.
good evening.
Take care. Bye
All
bye.
right. So yeah, there it is. I just love this show. I started out not knowing what to expect, kind of like Juan just said. Like she didn't know what to expect. When I started, I didn't know what to expect. But it's turned into something so beautiful for me. To be able to just have these conversations with all these amazing people and to hear these different perspectives and even the commonalities, between people, like these are high achieving people. And, there's some principles that just show up over and over again. Love yourself, um, drown out the noise, ignite the soul. There's so many reoccurring themes. And I just really appreciate you guys, everyone that tunes in, everyone that watches the replays, because I do it for you. There's nothing here for me other than getting the opportunity to talk to awesome people, which is enough. But I love you guys. Thank you. Um, catch us on the website, thedeeplyrootedshow.com, Instagram at the Deeply Rooted Show, Facebook, Deeply Rooted, a web series on mindset, um, and YouTube. We're all over the place. So, love you guys. Have a great Sunday. So I'll talk to you later.